Do you know what's dangerous, my friends? Not being poor, not being untalented, but believing that the world owes you something when in truth it owes you nothing. I learned that lesson as a boy, when my father, an unpredictable man, charming but unreliable, left my mother to raise us in hardship and discipline. I was born in a farmhouse on Michigan Hill in 1839. It was small, cold, and plain. And yet, that little wooden house was the furnace in which discipline was forged. My mother, Eliza, was a Baptist woman, stern and frugal. She believed every penny was sacred, every wasted moment a sin. She taught me that a man who can master himself will one day master the world. That was the first rule I ever lived by. Let me tell you a story. I earned my first real money not in oil, not in banking, but by raising turkeys. I was just a boy, but I tracked the wild turkey until I found her nest. I raised those chicks myself, and when the drovers came through with their great flocks, I sold my birds to them. I learned that a man must create value before he demands payment. And when I held those silver shillings in my hand, I didn't run to buy candy or trinkets like the other boys. I put them in a blue bowl my mother kept on the mantel. That bowl became my first bank, my first vault, my first treasury. That little act of saving was the seed of Standard Oil. You see, most men fail not because they are stupid, but because they are wasteful. They confuse looking rich with being rich. They buy the hat before they have the head to wear it. They spend the dollar today that could have been $2 tomorrow. I lent my first $50 at interest when I was only 13. When the farmer paid me back with $3.50 extra, I realized something powerful. Money could work harder than I could. That was the day I discovered compounding. From then on, I decided that every dollar I saved would be a servant, working day and night to bring me more. Discipline, savings, compounding. These are rules that never expire. They made me wealthy in the 19th century, and they will make you wealthy in the 21st. Look at Warren Buffett today. He built his fortune the same way, by saving, investing, and letting compounding do the heavy lifting. Jeff Bezos didn't start by buying yachts or cars. He started by reinvesting every penny of Amazon's profits back into growth. The principle does not change. Only the tools do. Rule number 1, never let competence trap you. When I became skilled as a bookkeeper at 16, I could have settled. I could have been the best clerk in Cleveland, earning my small salary, content with mediocrity. But I refused. I knew that once you master a skill, it is not a crown to wear, but a bridge to cross. I moved from bookkeeping to trading, from trading to oil, from oil to empire. Every stage of my life demanded a new skill, a new horizon. Billionaires today understand this. Elon Musk didn't stop with PayPal. He built rockets, cars, and satellites. Do not let your current excellence blind you to the next challenge. Rule number 2, guard your time like your fortune depends on it, because it does. At 17, when other young men wasted evenings in taverns, I was balancing ledgers by candlelight. While they chased pleasure, I chased precision. My time was the one thing I could never earn back. Years later, when Standard Oil grew vast, I refused to spend my hours on what others could do. I delegated, I systematized. I built men to replace me in the small things so I could think about the great things. That is the secret of scaling. Do only what only you can do. Everything else must be passed down the chain. If you spend your hours on trivial matters, you cannot build empires. Rule number 3, competition is not evil, it is the forge that sharpens steel. Do not let anyone deceive you with soft words about avoiding competition. My entire career was war. War against rival refiners, against the railroads, against the chaos of the oil fields. Competition forced me to be efficient, to cut waste, to think 10 moves ahead. I crushed some, yes, but I also competed with myself. Every year, every deal, I asked, can we refine cheaper? Can we ship faster? Can we serve more? When a man sees competition not as a threat but as a teacher, he becomes unstoppable. I remember when Edwin Drake struck oil in Titusville in 1859. The countryside erupted with wildcatters, fortune seekers, men stumbling over each other in drunken excitement. But I did not rush blindly. I watched, I studied, I calculated. While others gambled, I refined. While they chased gushers, I built pipelines, rail deals, storage tanks, laboratories. They competed in recklessness. I competed in discipline. That is why Standard Oil survived when thousands of others perished. And here is a rule you must etch into your soul. Say no. Billionaires are not made by saying yes to every dinner, every distraction, every opportunity. They are made by saying no to 99 things so they can say yes to the one that matters. I said no to extravagance, no to indulgence, no to wasting my time in society when I could spend it building. Even as a millionaire, I counted my pennies. I reused envelopes. I lived simply. People mocked me. Let them mock. I was building something eternal. Finally, stop reacting. Do not be the man tossed by every storm. Be the man who builds the harbor. I shaped my environment deliberately. I chose my partners, my battles, my terms. Nothing was left to chance. When critics said I was ruthless, they were right, but not in the way they thought. I was ruthless with myself, ruthless with my habits, my time, my waste. That is what true control means. You do not bend to the world. You bend the world to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I was not born rich. I was born to a wandering father and a praying mother. I did not inherit wealth. I inherited hunger. And hunger can be a curse or a blessing. For me, it was the fire that never died. If you want to be a billionaire, do not wait for luck, talent, or a trust fund. Live by rules, relentless rules. Save ruthlessly. Invest patiently. Compete fiercely. Guard your time. Reinvent yourself. Say no. Create. Do not react. Most men will never be rich, not because they cannot, but because they will not. They will not discipline themselves. They will not delay gratification. They will not guard their time. And so they drift into mediocrity. Do not drift. Do not waste. Do not wait. The path is before you. The same path I walked when I was a barefoot boy in Richford. Walk it with discipline, and one day men will call you ruthless, lucky, blessed, and they will all be wrong. You will simply be obedient to the laws of wealth. Now I ask you, will you follow the world into distraction and waste, or will you follow me into discipline and empire? The choice is yours. Do you know what most men never realize, my friends? That wealth is not built in moments of excitement, but in seasons of patience. I have seen fortunes made and lost in a single week. I watched wildcatters strike oil, sell barrels for a fortune, and squander it all on drink and carriages. They believed they were rich because they had money in their pocket. But money in your pocket is a fleeting guest. True wealth is money that stays, multiplies, and serves you for a lifetime. That is the difference between a gambler and a builder. The gambler celebrates the win, the builder reinvests it. That was the foundation of Standard Oil. Let me tell you a story. In 1855, when I was just 16, I got my first job as a bookkeeper for Hewitt & Tuttle. They didn't even pay me at first. I worked for months before receiving a single dollar. But I treated that office as if it were my own. I examined every bill, every shipment, every ledger entry. If there was a half-cent error, I found it. I made myself indispensable. When others saw drudgery, I saw training. When I finally received my pay, $3.50 a week, I opened my first ledger, Ledger A, and I recorded every cent that came in and went out. I gave to the church, I saved for the future, and I lived on less than I earned. That little book taught me mastery over money, and here is the rule. If you cannot account for the pennies, you will never manage the millions. When I formed my first partnership in 1858 with Maurice Clark, we had only $4,000 between us, half borrowed. Our first year, we turned over nearly $500,000 in business. Why? Because we built trust. We never missed a payment, never broke a word, never spent what we did not have. And yet, when the panic of 1857 struck, merchants all around us collapsed. Men far older, far wealthier than we were ruined. But we survived. How? Discipline. We did not live beyond our means. We kept our debts tight, our books honest, and our profits reinvested. That is how wealth endures storms, by anchoring itself in discipline. So rule number 4, debt can be a tool, but only if it is caged. Most men become slaves to debt. I became master of it. I borrowed when necessary, but never for luxury, only for expansion. When I went to bankers, I did not beg. I presented precise accounts, exact numbers, proof that every dollar was safe. And because I kept my word, they trusted me. Money flowed to me when others could not borrow a dime. To this day, banks chase those who need them least. Remember that. Earn trust, keep your word, and debt will serve you. Break your word, and it will enslave you. Rule number 5, vision. Millionaires think of months. Billionaires think of decades. When oil was discovered in Pennsylvania, men rushed to the wells with barrels, ropes, and buckets. They thought only of today's price, today's profit. I thought of tomorrow. I asked, how will oil be refined? How will it be transported? How will it be stored? I built refineries before the rush. I built pipelines when men still hauled barrels in wagons. I signed contracts with railroads to move oil cheaper than anyone else. I thought not of today's dollar, but of tomorrow's empire. My friends, the future belongs to the man who sees further. Ask yourself daily, where will the world be in 5 years? 10. Build for that world, not for this one. That is why billionaires watch politics. Not to gossip, but to anticipate. When laws shift, fortunes shift with them. When governments build railroads, when tariffs rise, when wars come, these are not distractions. They are opportunities. When others argued in taverns about presidents and parties, I studied legislation, tariffs, freight rates. I influenced when I could, adapted when I couldn't. The lesson is simple. Ignore politics and you are gambling blind. Study it, and you can shape the very ground on which others stumble. Now let us talk about sacrifice. Do you know how many times I said no when others said yes? I said no to lavish houses when I could afford them. No to luxury when I was mocked for being frugal. No to the endless social invitations of Cleveland's rich, preferring instead to spend evenings with my ledgers and my Bible. People called me stingy. They called me joyless. But my discipline gave me freedom. While others were chained to their whims, I was free to build. And when the time came, I could say yes to things that mattered. Universities, hospitals, medical research, the education of generations. You see, wealth is not about buying yourself more toys. It is about buying yourself more time, more control, more power to shape the world. And so I tell you, say no before the world asks. Fill your calendar with purpose so that trivialities cannot sneak in. Decide in advance that your time belongs to your mission, not to the demands of others. A man who cannot say no will never build an empire. Finally, rule number 6, control your environment. Do not live at the mercy of circumstance. When I built Standard Oil, I controlled every detail, from the barrels we used, to the chemicals for refining, to the contracts for shipping. People said I was obsessive. They were right. I was obsessed with perfection. I demanded efficiency, uniformity, precision. I refused to leave details to chance. And that is why we refined oil cheaper, safer, and cleaner than anyone else. That is why we crushed our rivals. Not through luck, not through miracles, but through relentless control. My friends, wealth is not an accident. It is not a blessing from fortune. It is the harvest of discipline, vision, sacrifice, and control. The same rules that made me the richest man of my time will make you wealthy in yours. But you must pay the price. You must resist distraction. You must delay gratification. You must live by principle when others live by impulse. I was not a genius. I was not the strongest, the fastest, or the most charming. I was disciplined. And discipline is the ultimate advantage because few are willing to bear it. The chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. So build your chains now. Chains of saving, chains of learning, chains of discipline, and let them bind you to success. So I leave you with this challenge. Tonight, before you sleep, write down your rules. Not wishes, not dreams, rules. And then swear to yourself you will live by them. 1 year from now, you will be further than you imagined. 10 years from now, you will be unrecognizable. And decades from now, you may stand where I stand, looking back at a life of empire, knowing it was not luck, not talent, not inheritance, but relentless obedience to the laws of wealth. You want to be a billionaire? Then follow the rules. Follow them without compromise, without distraction, without excuse. The world will fight you, mock you, resist you. Let it. Empires are not built on applause, they are built on discipline. And if you endure, my friends, if you endure, then wealth will not just come to you, it will bow to you. Now the choice is before you. Drift with the crowd or discipline yourself for destiny. Decide, and decide today.